I am Patty Elhoff. I am the author of Upcycle with Decoupage, available online. And even though today's project is not specifically about decoupage, I will take pictures of these and decoupage with the pictures. And I'll also make a couple of wreaths, but I wanted to show you how you can dry and dye these hydrangeas. These have already been dyed. That color is just my favorite, and it started out as this, which just dried on the vine. You know, near the end of the season, the hydrangeas on the vine just start to dry. If you don't have hydrangeas in your yard, you may have a neighbor or a friend who just has hydrangea bushes and they're not doing anything with the hydrangeas. You can ask them if you can have them. You can offer to give someone a little money to cut them off for them. Or perhaps you do have hydrangea bushes or shrubs. And I'll show you how to both dry them and dye them. Here's what we're going to need. Obviously, you'll need hydrangeas. These were from last season, and I'm going to work with these today when we dye them. A vase for water. Once you've cut those hydrangeas, take this outside. You're going to need a pot of boiling water. A lot of us have a pot that's designated specifically for crafts. That pot of water will be used for both the cut flowers and dyeing the flowers. You're going to need clothespins and some type of a setup where you can hang these, and I'll show you a couple of ideas that I have outside. Some twine. You could even put 2 suction cups up in your shower and put this twine or string. All this is available at the dollar store. And get a drop cloth to put in the bottom of your shower so that anything that drips right onto that. Underneath these, I've got cardboard. I don't think newspaper is going to protect the surface, so the cardboard is essential. Going to need flower cutters. Definitely want to wear some gloves for this. I found out the hard way that the dye does dye your fingers and fingernails. Rit dye. These colors were used, I used a wine color, and it gave me a whole different variation of colors. Some pink, some wine, some rich, deep, some light. I used a royal blue and got that color blue and that color blue, which almost looked black when it was wet. I was worried about that, but it really came out to be very pretty. And the Rit dye you can get in whatever color you want. Today we'll be experimenting with the pink. I did not dye these. I cut these last year using the method I'm going to show you today. Put them in the vase, they dried in the vase, and they dried that color, which is very pretty. So let's head outside and I'll show you what we need next. You may want some hairspray when we're all done with this, but you probably have that around. I just went to the dollar store, picked up the cheapest hairspray I could find. But let's go outside and I'll show you how we're going to cut these. Right now, you want to have some water boiling though. Make sure you fill your vase with water before you go outside and bring that outside along with the clippers. I just took some twine from the dollar store, zigzagged it all around, and even in the driveway, I put a garbage bag down. If you have an old shower curtain, or they make excellent drop cloths. And I'm going to, after we dye the hydrangeas, I'm going to use clothespins, also from the dollar store, and clip them on here. The other thing you might want to look into is if you have a sweater hanger. But for right now, here's what you do in order to dry the hydrangeas. Make sure you cut these down far enough. Go down about 12 inches. And you see how I've got this on an angle? It's a sharp angle. Snip it. We want to take these leaves off. They come right off. Put it right in water. Now you should do this with a bunch of them all at once. I'm just going to do one for right now. My water is boiling. Try not to steam up the camera. Put the hydrangea, do you see the angle? Whoops, steaming up the camera. Not good. It looks kind of dreamy, doesn't it? Put the hydrangea in the boiling water for 30 seconds. I just realized my camera has a timer on it. There's the 30 seconds. Then put it right back into the regular water. Do that. So do that with several of these at a time. Put it in the regular water and let this sit for at least 2 weeks. You may want to keep adding a little bit of water to here as the days go by. I accidentally let the water evaporate one time, and the flowers had completely dried to a beautiful color in there, and that was somewhere around July. So that did work for me. Now I'm going to show you how to dye the flowers. The water's boiling and I have it deep enough so that I can dip the hydrangea in there. And I'm going to add some of the dye, but not all of it. And I'm using the hydrangeas from last season. They're already a year old. They're that dry. And believe it or not, this still works great. They might come out a little droopy looking, but they dry perfectly. You can put some baby powder in your gloves if you have a hard time getting them on like I do. So I'm pouring some of, now this is the light pink, into this boiling water. It looks really red. So let's see how this works. The other colors that I've used were wine and a royal blue, and they came out beautifully, but all different shades. So you see, the water's still boiling. I am dunking this in. This is another reason that you want the long stem on here. You don't want to get your hands too close to that. It's a little uncomfortable. And these pieces that are still sticking up, these are pretty rough flowers even after drying for a year. You could just push them down with, you could use a spoon, you could use anything you want. But I just have a couple of paper bags down on the floor in case anything drips. If something drips, just take a bleach cleaner pretty quickly and wipe it up. You'll be okay. I'm pulling this up now. For now, I'm going to hang this outside on my ladder that I rigged with the twine. Those are the hydrangeas drying on that ladder. However, I took a few notes because the ones that are up here are the ones that I dried that were from last year, last season, very dark, very brown, and I put them in a light color pink and I did not use the full solution. However, the ones down there were a lighter color hydrangea that I just happened to cut, like the ones I showed you how to cut and dry using the hot water method, and that's how those are coming out, and they look a lot more promising than the ones up here, but we'll wait until they're dry and see how they look. I also have to add that when I use the lighter color, I made some notes there for myself, I also put a dollop of white vinegar in the water, in the boiling water. I put the rest of the box of color in the water so that I had a full box of Rit dye in boiling water with a dollop of vinegar in there. So we'll be back later today or tomorrow, or I will, and I'll show you how these eventually turned out once they're all dry. It's a very low humidity day here today, so that's why I have these outside. These are the hydrangeas that I cut for today to do our drying method on. You can see they're different colors. That is even a different type of hydrangea. I'm really curious to see how that comes out. But these are not quite at the stage where they're browning. And if they dry this color, that's fine. I might not even have to color them, or I may want to go a little more intense on the colors. Those are the ones that I dyed, with the exception of the brown one on the right. So far, these look beautiful the way they are, but let's see how they dry. And I'm still waiting for the ones that we dyed today to dry so we can see how they came out. And we'll be back as soon as those are dry. One other thing, I am leaving these on the porch to dry because it's happened in the past where I left them in the house in a nice dry room, whether that was the basement or the bathroom, and I found out that we had crickets or little visitors, and I don't even know what else could have been in there, spiders or something. So if you have a place where you can dry them safely outside, like where they won't get run over in a driveway, or if you have a garden area where they won't fall over, there is water in all of these pitchers. These are the dried hydrangeas, and these hydrangeas in the front, as opposed to the ones in the back there, are the ones that were the light colored hydrangeas to start with. And there's some variations in the color too. That looks like a different shade of pink, but that's still all fine for me. This color came out really pretty. And this one in the back, those were the original dark hydrangeas from last year that they'd been dry for about a year, that we dipped originally into the pink, and they came out looking almost identical to what they went in. So I guess the lesson is the light colored dye on the dark colored hydrangeas, the ones that are older and brown, it's not going to come out to a very nice color. I don't know if you could see this in the video. This is a very rich burgundy, and I used the RIT dye called, I'm sorry, that one in the back is called Mauve. But again, that was using the already browned hydrangeas. That's going to be a beautiful fall color. And that is a coffee filter next to it, because that is the color of the mauve on pure white. That's how it comes out. It's the pink on very light colored flowers. So I don't know how much of a lighter pink you can get, but for me, I'm very happy with the colors that came out. These are now dried, and I will be making wreaths with them, and I'll post that video on here too. In the meantime, if you've got any questions, please feel free to ask me. Thank you so much for subscribing, and I will see you in a couple of days, guys. I've got so many projects on the back burner that I'll be coming out with a lot more videos. Thanks again. Bye-bye. By the way, I used the rest of the dye on brown coffee filters. You see that nice tip that I put on there? And on some of the white cone-shaped filters, you guys probably have your own uses for those, angel wings or flowers. You can see right there, I already made a little flower-type rosette. You know how you can make those wreaths out of coffee filters? This dye works perfectly, and you can either cover the whole coffee filter or just the tips, the edge. A lot of times you're only going to see the edge, so you can also, this leads into the reason we needed the hairspray, by the way. That hairspray, if it's not too shiny, you could spray it all over the colored hydrangeas once they're done. They're not so delicate now with the color on them, believe it or not. You just have to be careful that the hairspray doesn't make them too shiny. So thanks again.